Enough is enough.
What is going on?
To me, start with the Sheldon foul on Caitlin Clark, the poke to the eye, and then what happens after that?
J.C. Sheldon appeared to poke her in the eye later in the game. Marina Mabrey comes in. Marina Mabrey is a former Notre Dame player, so of course I have to defend her.
This was bullshit.
And this should be celebrated for physical basketball because we wouldn't be leading parades that the NBA needs to protect.
You got to get physical. If you go look at the history of basketball, high school, college, WNBA, NBA, if there's an offensive player.
Bro, this league is a fucking joke.
You control the game is called the fouls that are actually happening on the floor.
And I said this last year several times. The WNBA is not a vertical league.
The footage was clear. Caitlin Clark took a shot straight to the face, then a brutal hip check that sent her staggering. The crowd gasped, social media erupted, and fans waited for outrage from every major outlet.
J.C. Sheldon right here, she's going to give Caitlin Clark the Dejanay Carrington eye gouge. And then Marina Mabrey's going to come in like some thug off the street and pull a Kennedy Carter on Caitlin Clark. There's the eye gouge, okay? And there's Mabrey right there with the hip check, the shove. That's the eye gouge. And then right there. Good God almighty.
Marina Mabrey basically just did what Kennedy Carter did on a whole nother level.
But instead, NBC Sports stepped in and defended it. In a move that stunned viewers, NBC downplayed the foul as a little physicality, brushing off the sequence as part of the game, and even suggesting Clark had it coming.
J.C. Sheldon appeared to poke her in the eye later in the game. Marina Mabrey comes in. Marina Mabrey is a former Notre Dame player, so of course I have to defend her because she's one of my favorites.
Marina Mabrey. She does what Marina Mabrey does, yes.
She's going to step in and defend her teammate. So she kind of like hip checked / like pushed Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark fell. That was a point in the game where, you know, I think J.C. Sheldon got a flagrant 1 for the eye poke, but then everyone else was assessed technicals. And there may be some criticism that Marina Mabrey should have gotten ejected there. I think, you know, that's certainly up for debate.
Their narrative? That she talks trash, she plays hard, and now she's just getting a taste of her own medicine. But for millions watching, it didn't feel like tough basketball. It felt like targeted violence being spun into justified aggression.
You got to get physical. If you go look at the history of basketball, high school, college, WNBA, NBA, if there's an offensive player and they're humiliating you, Steph, Shaq, MJ, Caitlin, what do? You can't trap her. She'll dribble through it. You got to put a body on her. You got to double team her. You try to get in her head with trash talking. It's not working at all. It's the ultimate compliment, in my opinion.
And the worst part? NBC wasn't alone in that thinking. Suddenly, the question wasn't, why did that happen to Caitlin? It was, did she deserve it? It all unfolded during one of the most heated moments of the game. Caitlin Clark, locked in and leading the Fever with poise and precision, was in full control.
She dishes it out, and I think that it's a disservice to her as an athlete to pretend like she can't also take it. Like, I think her being someone who can play really aggressive, hard basketball and competitive basketball and can, you know, smack talk back and forth with other players is something that's part of her game and something that, you know, should be celebrated, as well as her long threes. Like, those are the things that we love in athletes.
Until things took a sudden, violent turn. On a routine play, Clark took a hand straight to the eye from J.C. Sheldon. She winced, staggered, but stayed upright. Just seconds later, Marina Mabrey came flying in, delivering a body check so blatant it sent Clark reeling once again.
Poked in the eye, then pushed to the ground by Marina Mabrey.
Marion Mabrey, who knocks her down.
Mabrey just goes and shoves her onto the ground.
Marina Mabrey, this is inappropriate, came over, knocked her over. Many thought she should have been thrown out of the game. Well, she didn't get a technical. It's a little bad boys Pistons with MJ. For the record, Caitlin Clark got up. She wasn't hurt. She did more trash talking. She hit more threes. She remained remarkable, just like all the great. You know, if you respect women, stop pandering.
No call, no whistle, no concern from the refs. But it didn't stop there. As the chaos built, Sophie Cunningham stepped in, not just to play, but to protect. She threw her body into the paint with force, made her presence known, and ignited the kind of fire her teammates needed.
What a damn day we have had so far with Sophie Cunningham. She is standing on business. She's trending everywhere, and now she's retweeting all the drama. Sophie has simply made herself a star, which she was already famous, but at this point, she hella famous, super famous. She got parody accounts been made on her. Guys, this is lit. But let's head on over to Twitter right now.
They brought Sophie Cunningham over in a trade for a reason. She's the youngest black belt in the state of Missouri's history, 6 years old. They brought her over to protect Caitlin Clark because they saw this puppy coming. The league doesn't quite know what to do, but the Fever did. And so, again, you got to put a body on her. You got to get physical.
The game turned into a battle zone, and all eyes went to Clark, who kept playing through it like a warrior. Yet when NBC Sports weighed in afterward, their reactions shocked viewers. Instead of calling out the sequence of aggressive, unnecessary contact, they minimized it. They referred to the hits as part of a little fracas, painting it as an ordinary physical exchange, when in reality, fans saw a pattern of targeting that had been escalating all season.
And I think it's also worth noting the Sun are not the best team in the WNBA. They're actually the worst, if not maybe like the second worst. Like the Dallas Wings are also pretty bad, but the Fever are a championship contender team. So at the end of the game, when most of the starters were out, the Fever were up by 17 points, and Sophie Cunningham decided to prevent JC Sheldon from, scoring on a layup, and that's when the fracas began. I would say everything before the fracas was just sort of basketball-y players, defending their teammates sort of thing. And then the fracas occurred in the fourth quarter, which was, it took, the referees like 10 minutes to decide what to do. They ended up ejecting a bunch of players, including Lindsay Allen, which I don't even know what she looked like she was trying to break it up. It was just very silly. And so
NBC didn't stop at downplaying the aggression. They shifted the spotlight right back onto Caitlin. Their angle? Maybe she brought it on herself. Maybe, just maybe, all the heat Clark is getting is because of how she plays, how she talks, and how much attention she draws.
Caitlin Clark makes her return. Caitlin Clark back in action, and 300,000 people showed up. So yes, people said, I'll wait. And when they waited, they came back and then some. When they waited, they came back and then some.
In other words, they hinted that she asked for it. And in that moment, NBC didn't just analyze the game, they chose a side. NBC Sports didn't just provide commentary, they launched a full-scale narrative shift designed to downplay the aggression against Caitlin Clark, while subtly accusing her of provoking it.
I do think the media is prone to do this. The media tends to be very reactionary, and the fans generally get it more than the media. So I want to start with this, J-Mac. The WNBA has arrived. Caitlin Clark's gotten really good really fast. It's like the end of year one for Michael Jordan or year three for Michael Jordan. She's gotten really good really fast. And you got to put a body on her, or you got to double team her, or she's going to embarrass you. She's shooting 33-footers. And what happened last night's a byproduct of that. This is what happened to MJ. She's number 1 and 2 in every offensive stat. She's hitting more threes this season than Steph Curry did in his first MVP season. And her game embarrasses you. So like men's basketball, JC Sheldon had the task of stopping the latest superstar in her basketball league.
Their coverage was calculated, almost surgical in how it turned the focus away from the physicality and toward Clark's attitude, her popularity, and what they called her growing ego. The segment began with a breakdown of the now viral moment, JC Sheldon's eye poke followed by Marina Mabrey's aggressive body check. But instead of showing concern, NBC's panel downplayed it as just playoff-style intensity.
She dishes it out, and I think that it's a disservice to her as an athlete to pretend like she can't also take it. Like, I think her being someone who can play really aggressive, hard basketball and competitive basketball and can, smack talk back and forth with other players is something that's part of her game and something that, should be celebrated as well as her long threes. Like, those are the things that we love in athletes. And so I think that, like, you know, this conversation is sort of spun out of control and like needing to protect her. I don't think if she's going to swear at other players and like get in other players' faces, then like they should be able to get back in her face, and the referee should be able to assess penalties if it goes too far, which is what they did. And I again, like, I agree that there's, I think, a conversation to be had about.
One anchor said, "Look, this is the WNBA. It's physical. Clark's going to have to adjust." But the footage didn't show competitive bumping. It showed intentional targeting. Clark wasn't being defended. She was being hunted on the court.
It was a fracas. When I told you I wanted to talk about this, I said it was a fracas, and I stand by that designation. I don't think this was anything more than a fracas.
Right.
It was certainly not an agree to disagree. But it also was not tomfoolery.
And I want to get your take on this. What you saw last night, start with the Sheldon foul on Caitlin Clark, the poke to the eye, and then what happens after that.
And I said this last year several times. The WNBA is not a vertical league.
And this should be celebrated for physical basketball, because we wouldn't be leading parades that the NBA needs to protect.
And NBC's reaction? She needs to toughen up. Then came the comparisons. They pulled in clips of Michael Jordan in his early days with the Pistons, Steph Curry getting shoved by veterans, even LeBron being bumped around by older stars. The message was clear. This is what greatness looks like. It gets hit.
You got to get physical. If you go look at the history of basketball, high school, college, WNBA, NBA, if there's an offensive player and they're humiliating you, Steph, Shaq, MJ, Caitlin, what do? You can't trap her. She'll dribble through it. You got to put a body on her. You got to double team her. You try to get in her head with trash talking. It's not working at all. It's the ultimate compliment, in my opinion.
But what NBC failed to acknowledge is that those stars had league protection. Flagrant fouls were punished, stars were defended, and more importantly, the media never suggested they deserved it. NBC made it seem like Clark's popularity was the problem. She's on every commercial, every highlight reel, every sports outlet, one commentator said. When you're that big, you're going to draw heat. You can't have the spotlight and not expect the blowback.
Sophie Cunningham was a black belt at the age of 6.
Yeah. Yep.
Boom!
Wow.
JC Sheldon, that's cute. You want to poke her in the eye, then push her into a boom Mabry thing? Go ahead. I'll take a take foul, and you'll eat the deck a little bit here. And then we'll get out. I love it. I know people aren't going to like this.
But fans watching at home weren't buying it. They weren't seeing blowback. They were seeing bias. They were watching as the most exciting young player in the league was being left unguarded by the league and verbally attacked by the very voices who should be protecting the game's integrity.
There wasn't an explanation for the tech that she got. You know, I think it was pretty obvious that stuff was brewing, right? When the officials don't get control of the ball game, when they allow that stuff to happen, and it's been happening all season long. All season long. It's not just this game, it's been happening all season long. This is what happens, right? This is what happens. You've got competitive women who are the best in the world at what they do, right? And when you allow them to play physical and you allow these things to happen, they're going to compete. And they're going to have their teammates' backs. It's exactly what you expect, right? Out of fierce competitions.
And then came the spin on Sophie Cunningham. NBC positioned her as the league's new energy balancer, claiming she was bringing grit and holding everyone accountable on the floor. They made it sound like she was escalating tension, when in reality, she was the only one willing to push back against the attacks on Clark.
And Sophie Cunningham stepped up and did what somebody needed to do. A little bit of rough justice for the Connecticut Sun. And they deserved it. Connecticut Sun coach Rashid Mezian didn't like it one bit.
NBC described her flagrant as borderline, said she was just trying to make a statement, and conveniently ignored that her aggression came after Caitlin had taken multiple unchecked hits. What's worse, NBC even framed Clark as a player who might be asking for it. She barks at refs, she claps in players' faces, she stares down opponents after big plays. It's not crazy to say players might be fed up with that, said one commentator, but this narrative conveniently ignores that every great athlete, male or female, has had fire, competitiveness, and trash talk in their DNA. It's part of the game, but only Caitlyn seems to be getting punished for it.
And this thing was chatty in the second quarter. It was chatty. They've got history. It was trash talking. And then in the third quarter, Sheldon poked her in the eye. Again, this is something we see all the time. They were on each other. They were talking. It was trashy. The superstar like MJ, unstoppable, poke her in the eye, and that's a flagrant foul, and it should have been a flagrant foul. And then Marina Mabry, this is inappropriate, came over, knocked her over. Many thought she should have been thrown out of the game. Well, she didn't get a technical. It's a little bad boys Pistons with MJ. For the record, Caitlin Clark got up.
The real damage wasn't just the coverage itself. It was the signal it sent. When one of the biggest sports media voices in the country excuses dangerous play and places blame on the victim, it validates the very behavior fans are calling out. It tells players, keep hitting her. She can take it. She deserves it. And that's where the outrage really exploded.
These effing reps, this effing league.
The referee does nothing. She does nothing.
This is JC Sheldon right here with an entire handful of Caitlin Clark's shoulder and bicep, and she's twisting it. So many of these incidents are happening towards Indiana Fever players, particularly Caitlin Clark.
Fans flooded NBC's comment sections, Twitter threads, and TikTok clips, calling out the network for gaslighting the audience. You wouldn't say this if it was Sabrina, one fan wrote. So now getting elbowed in the face is just part of being good? Another said. It was clear. The public wasn't falling for it. NBC tried to turn a moment of real concern into a highlight of toughness, but all they did was expose a dangerous bias, one that refuses to admit that the league's biggest star is being targeted and that media institutions are playing a role in normalizing the hits. Instead of calling it out, they're cloaking it in tradition, competitiveness, and supposed fairness. But fans see through it. And Caitlin Clark? She just keeps taking the hits, keeps getting back up.
A Wednesday. It's a Caitlin Clark Wednesday. How grateful are we? How lucky are we in June? You know, this industry is football season and waiting for football, that Caitlin Clark has become a leading source of content. Or we could talk about Aaron Rodgers. I am for Caitlin Clark. J-Mac texted me last night, the gift that keeps on giving.
And keeps proving why they're so desperate to bring her down. The fallout from NBC's narrative didn't take long to explode. Fans, analysts, and even former players took to social media, not just to defend Caitlin Clark, but to call out the clear double standard in how she's being treated compared to other stars. The idea that a rookie who single-handedly boosted ratings and sold out arenas should simply accept being targeted left fans stunned. And NBC's attempt to justify it only made it worse.
JC Sheldon appeared to poke her in the eye later in the game. Marina Mabry comes in. Marina Mabry is a former Notre Dame player, so of course I have to defend her.
This was bullshit.
The term "she started it" began trending, mocking the absurd notion that Clark's confidence and visibility somehow earned her the violent plays she's endured. Clips circulated comparing Caitlin's reactions to male players doing the same, or worse, without ever being painted as instigators. The difference was obvious, and fans weren't letting it slide. Meanwhile, Sophie Cunningham's rise to fan favorite status only grew. Despite NBC's framing, the public saw her for what she was, the only one who stood up and pushed back. Her hit may have been called flagrant, but to viewers, it was justice, long overdue. The more the media tried to twist the story, the more fans pushed back. And with every biased segment, every excuse for the aggression, one truth became louder. The league may stay silent and the networks may spin, but the people know what they're seeing.
Caitlin Clark effect seems to be crazier than year one.
I love watching her score and just everything about her.
They went the extra mile just to watch her play here.
She is just absolutely undeniable. Caitlin Clark was just different. Caitlin Clark is the system.
Caitlin Clark is
generational talent we've needed.
She is the system.
Caitlin Clark is an absolute all-star. She is the Michael Jordan of this. This is the girl that girls have been waiting for forever.
The most notable of which is, y'all already know who, the needle mover, Caitlin Clark.
Caitlin Clark isn't just being targeted, she's being blamed for it. And the public, they're done pretending that's okay. NBC Sports tried to rewrite the story, but fans weren't fooled. What they saw was clear: a rising star being targeted, then blamed for daring to shine too bright. Caitlin Clark didn't start the hate, but she's standing tall through all of it. And as the media spins and the league stays quiet, one thing is certain: the people are watching, and they won't forget who stayed silent.
There wasn't an explanation for the tech that she got. I think it was pretty obvious that stuff was brewing, right? When the officials don't get control of the ball game, when they allow that stuff to happen, and it's been happening all season long. All season long. It's not just this game. It's been happening all season long. This is what happens, right? This is what happens. You've got competitive women who are the best in the world at what they do, right? And when you allow them to play physical and you allow these things to happen, they're going to compete, and they're going to have their teammates' backs. It's exactly what you expect, right? Out of fierce competition.